So I told my mom I was going for a walk. Anyway, tried to tell her I bought a homeless person a couple sandwiches and ran into another person who's a meth addict, but he was cool, really respectful, and it was all right. You know, I noticed people respectful. Like, I'll run into alcoholics or meth heads, on the street who are more respectful than, well, quite a wide variety of working class people that I've known. Sometimes briefly, sometimes because they're a bus driver, other times because they're this and that. It's really something else, and you meet sometimes really nice people too. And it's just a shame that maybe some of these professions couldn't clean up their act so that regardless of the kind of person you're dealing with, you get a consistently safe, courteous experience, right? And that's all, they really need to know. But these professional whatnots what shows through is their portrayal. Their level of portrayal in the world has made them compatible with what could be seen as psychopathic agendas. So this is where the world doesn't measure up to reasonable expectations and then doesn't have to do anything except placate you. And it's nobody's responsibility, because when people are working 10, 20, 100, or 100 million or a billion at a time, you can hardly correct their behavior. So everyone becomes free in the group the way someone in an orgy drinking alcohol is liberated from normal moral and sexual inhibitions. And this is something that people have touched on throughout history, right? You're safer in a group in so much as you're able to completely identify with what the group identifies with, or things or people, icons or personae. And you identify with these personae, these actors or celebrities, and you take on a different persona yourself, that of the one granted to you by the group, which is like a costume. And under the effects of that costume, you become free. But you also become liberated from normal moral inhibitions, in as much as that group can be made to do this or another. And figuring quite prominently in what can exert what's called a corrupting influence over groups which always want to serve the most amazing interests of fun and peace and greatness in every possible way, is that the provenance of your membership, when it is procured from a family that has been sufficiently disturbed. And this is known medical fact, okay? So we'll give you that little tidbit. That's from years of study. It's like, how do you apply that to your daily life? Well, I live in a world where if you can encounter enough problems that you find in conflicts, you can't help but want people to know right from wrong. But at the same time, you can't help but notice, out of your own sense of morality, that they're not able to make the distinctions that they need to be able to make, because other priorities are asserting themselves for their own survival, which now put them in a way to threaten the survival of others who have reasonable expectations of them, this, that, and the other thing. Now, what do you got now? You've got a Jovian storm that'll last for eternity. You've got a conflict machine. And once you have a conflict machine stirring and moving among the ethers of human beings of the world, how can you ever have peace? And yet you would say, I'm saying that you cannot have peace unless, and then you would read in my argument, what do you think could be changed? And the flip side, of course, yes, whatever we see that's bad in the world, let's bring it around and be accountable for ourselves. If the world is a liar, try to tell the truth more. Try to be more honest, right? If the world is cruel, be more kind. Learn from that cruelty how fruitless it is. Learn from misuse of aggression how fruitless it is, how damaging it is, if you haven't felt it already, how utterly damaging and fruitless violence is, or at least unnecessary violence, because we all seem to think there's some kind of necessary violence. And we all have that prerogative, right? And yet the world uses that in our name in pretty barbaric ways that are hard for the human brain to really appreciate. Can anyone really appreciate the unnecessary and untimely mortification and morbidity of over 1.5 billion people in the 20th century? Your brain, you would say like, oh man, you're just being hyperbolic. What you're saying is there's a not a very well studied aspect of violence between two people or between billions of people. And that is that the unbelievable nature of it even when brought into specific consideration for its remarkable and brutal success in dumbing and rolling over the human mind, not just once, but for all time, that people tend to find it so unbelievable that they would rather think that you're doing something to them than they should feel this way. They don't want to feel how unbelievable. They want to feel how horrible that would be if that were true, right? Wouldn't it be nice if it was a rumor? Wars and rumors of wars. No, you have to be very open-minded to study how the world works. And I would believe someone if they told me that a lot of what anyone has been told about war, certainly since the advent of radio and television, could be made up in terms of what's going on here and who's fighting who over here. That's one. Obviously, people who live in those parts of the world and went through that know the truth of the matter and would say, I wouldn't say that any war you've been in didn't happen, at the same time. So everywhere that war has really happened to anyone, that would eradicate this suggestion entirely, which could be then deemed offensive and tasteless and perhaps as offensive as claiming that the Holocaust didn't happen, right? And so, but if someone does lie, if wars have been concocted, or in so much as that war that was real was ever about warping the human mind, how much would it take to kind of pixelate and add other war stories and other atrocities to the mix of daily horror getting into your newspaper, right? And here's where I would add something that I've noticed. It's amazing, isn't it? How remarkable the writing of all television, week in and week out, all over the world, and the writing of movies and the writing of everything, the writing of the news every day, the scripting of things, for how little attention we give to the power wielded by those who write scripts, the script writers, the scripture writers, the power that is wielded by those who can put words into people's mouths so that they, like a soldier, animate the spirit of what the script writer wishes to accomplish, right? The actor becomes the tool. They become a receptacle for what the script demands. And that script could be brought together by a system of actors and acting that would achieve an incredibly powerful and persuasive result. So if you respect words and language and the law and all kind of scripture, isn't it interesting that script writers receive so little praise, right? The people up front, see, the attention is meant to be on them. The scripts aren't written to draw attention to the script writer. That's not the point. You'll see their names and stuff in the credits, but who cares? They don't interview people who write scripts for famous TV shows, right? Unless they're prominent personalities in the TV show, right? Or producers and things like that. Famous people, right? That person will talk to you. But what do you know? And if you look at these TV shows, there's a lot of very intelligent scripting, intelligent understanding of language, almost like, well, pretty much witchcraft. It's witchcraft. So every day the world is written out, and you or I have to trust that it's being written out accurately. One thing I notice is that, say, you take a story on Netflix, take a TV drama that dramatizes some true story, or not, of someone who's going through really human hardship, from Good Will Hunting to, Cry Freedom and everything else, or The Shawshank. You really sympathize with the main character, right? And yet, there is no reason to believe that all these movies put together come close to accurately reflecting as much as our brains would enjoy if we actually heard the words and interacted with a person who could even articulate the type of shock that they went through when exposed to the types of predicaments presented in a theatrical context by the various actors and scriptwriters of the world. And you would find that it bears almost no relationship. It's like war movies. People have been to war. War movies are completely fake. They don't resonate with people who've been in battles at all, because it's nothing like what they're like, you see. They don't tell you what they're like, because if they told you what they were like, you wouldn't go to war. They show you lots of blood and guts, and you say, but they make it digestible. That's why you're sitting there watching it. You're digesting it. Your brain's accepting it and processing it. You don't walk out of the worst war movie saying you've got post-traumatic shock. But have you gotten a reasonable sense of war? Okay, so did you have some emotional catharsis about the terrible trouble that war brings to human beings, that they should not be criticized for finding some relief and maybe some harmless entertainment that you're just analyzing to death, being like a domestic terrorist? Right? So it's amazing. You walk a little earlier in the day and people question you. Oh, yes. I do have to take a shit, so, and it is fucking cold. This is the wrong trail to be on. That river is freezing. You can feel it in the air. It's a good thing I'm a bit warmed up, so I'm going to find a trail and head off. That'll be the next goal. Good luck seeing the trail, and I'm going to take a shit. So, well, if you have to take a shit, the best time to do it is at night, early in the day. The sky is lightening up a little bit. That is so beautiful. I have to tell you, it's like the birth of a child. The sky, it's like this deep blue. It's like the day is like a child being born. It's the most amazing feeling. You come out here and go, something is about to be born. The day is a birth. Just like our lives are like a ship, a real ship. And we're making the hull to endure the future. That's why we worry about things. We're building a hull. We have to last our body. So our minds are best employed doing things and occupying ourselves in a way that'll help our body live a long time, right? And so what would that be likened to? Shipbuilding, right? And so what about a philosophy like that? And the day, so there's two things that have come out of this walk. Health as shipbuilding, and the mental force of humans, and the birth of the day as a genuine bona fide birth, which sounds even stupid to say that, right? Because of course it is. Okay. Fleeing the scene of the crime. Oh, I think I just saw a light. Or some kind of like that. Maybe it's just from the day being born. Looks like there's something like lights I'm seeing here and there. I don't know if they're from the distance. Trying to look at the parallax. It lends an eerie effect, but I think it's just distant lights. Yeah. So I just took a massive dump, perfect, and a piss. I tried to move off the trail as much as I could. What the fuck can I do with no light? And then I searched around frantically for some leaves and found them. Wiped my eyes, continue on my way. I'm not sure if that's the reason YouTube deletes my content or my channel, but that was a good riddance, and see you later right there. Ugh. Now I do have to drink something as well. I'm going to stop at some point and have a quench my thirst. Just ground it. There's not as much anxiety today. So I think that violent person that was stalking me yesterday, I think after several days of stalking, there you go. There's definitely like a fire or some lights in there. Neat. There's like people there. That's cool. There's people in the forest, I think. I think there's something going on there. It's so early they wouldn't expect anyone to be walking by. Could be just an effect. We'll walk back out of here. So we've done the crab. Let's have a drink. Something right where I stopped. There's something. I see something. So while I've been sitting here, I thought I saw like just a couple sort of stray embers, like spirits, moving around a tree here and there, just very fleeting though. And there's a light. I don't know how deep it is in that forest. It's not flickering though, it's very steady. Well, I'll keep going. I'm keeping my camera turned away. Log. There's an opening in the forest ceiling here. I think I'm cold enough. I'm gonna head home now. Okay, forest. Gotta slow down. The forest is a little unpredictable here. I don't see that light anymore, so maybe it wasn't in there. It might have been. Oh, yeah, I think it's just a more distant. It's over here. It's this sign over here. I think it's just some moonlight or something. You know what it is? It's light reflecting off of a sign over here. It's just creating a feeling. It's like, yeah, I mean, very interesting effect though. But I do think that there are forest spirits around, for sure. And that things like that open up your imagination. And then I thought, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Like, we're probably taught to be afraid of dark forests and things like that. I mean, Dante, right, Inferno begins. Midway this path of life I was on, I came to a darkened wood. And so the beginning of hell, the beginning of torture, is a woodland place. And in this woods, he was led into hell, where all these famous people are being tortured. You think, isn't that weird? Why a woodland place? Why would the psalm say that we, the authors of the Bible, have said in our heart that we will subdue you? As though cutting down all the trees, as though cutting down a forest full of trees. We will change the standard for signs. In their way of speaking, that's what they're saying. Right? But they're not saying it explicitly. Pretty creepy, hey? And so as human beings, like, how many people are growing up and not even feeling resistant to the idea of mechanized industrial warfare? You know, as something you can do while sitting at your office, for instance. How many children are growing up in the world and have grown up with no sense of the interplay, or perhaps no better sense of the interplay between good and evil as it operates on a world scale, which in a sense, on a world scale, bears very little resemblance to what, in a sense, would be a constructive or ancient idea of good and evil, which probably had nothing to do with war and violence whatsoever. You know, it's not even that there's good and evil in the world, it's the extraordinary perversions of both of them, so that it becomes indistinguishable between the two, right? And you see the same thing with male and female, right, being mixed. And this is what I mean about the connection between sex or gender, some people call it. It's the really, see, the thing is that your sex is your gender, and once they change, you don't have either. And the relationship between that and unhinging people's moral inhibitions and sexual inhibitions, and increasingly, whatever sexuality people are, sex is supposed to be for sport, it's supposed to be for recreation, it's supposed to be to do exciting things, it's supposed to be something, you know, about like the great unfolding drama of your life, which bears absolutely no resemblance to the way it's portrayed in films and books, and so on, which is like taken as a whole, like a religious version of your life that bears as much resemblance to your life as a wax figure in the mummy's tomb bears resemblance to your life. You have no way of measuring even the morality or the facility of identifying with this world, emotionally or physically or racially. Identifying with anyone, like, what if the only people you ever knew, the only thing you knew about the world was your family and you were happy every day? What would anything else fucking matter, right? The world doesn't matter compared to that family. It's useless. Look at Tom Bombadil in Lord of the Rings, right? Who fucking cares about the rest of this world if you're Tom Bombadil and his wife? This one woman said to me, I've traveled all over the world and everyone's a hobbit. Everyone's a hobbit, really. So everyone's a passive, compliant knob in the working out of some mythopoetic dominion over the human mind. Fuck you. And so there's no way around religion. It's always around us. It's always around us every day. What I found in studying religion is that it's all religion. Every day. People's behavior, in many respects, when it becomes most biased or prejudiced, has been the most religiously cultivated for their own survival, in the way that I've said that all human behavior in the realm of conflict, think about it personally, when people have hurt you or yours, are doing whatever they're doing to survive. And there's a provenance to that, and why people who behave that way can continue to function like a psychopath in society and fit in completely with the rest of the world. Because by the time they've met you, who knows how many people have been scammed or hurt by them. How come they've never been stopped? You have to wonder. There's a certain esteem, there's a certain mesmerizing power to the psychopath or to the human who's using devious means to get what they want, to survive. And their survival trespasses on yours and does not make inadequate provision for your voice and your safety, which, though people have many different points of view, that can be decided by logic and ethics, right? And that's why we often need to know more about a story, because we have to see how the ethics applies. So to apply the ethics, you have to know the truth of the story, right? If you see a woman killing a man or a man killing a woman, and you say, ethically that is wrong, logically that is wrong, no one should ever kill another person. But what if that man has raped her and all of her sisters for generations and has been passing down the tradition of raping all of them and is able to get them into mute submission at an early age? And he'll go on to rape in his family many, many other people for generations, and she just ended all of it. What would you think the ethics of that situation was? Right? And all the feminist lesbians are cheering right now. It's like, yeah, kill the rapist. Okay. Right? But what if there was a little boy left in that man who had been subjected to inordinate tortures since before he was even born, and all of his family as well? Because just like you, when you have a bad day and you have a temper, people don't behave the way they might want to when their brain is under torture and chronic distress. And just imagine, right, that sex or rape, sexual assault, is not about sex. So these families aren't getting what you get out of sex at all. They're never getting anything from it. In fact, what you're seeing in their violence is their frustration at never getting anything they want at all, not from anything. And that to kill him would be a mercy indeed. What a torturous life. Indeed, one capable of nothing better than spreading torture to innocent people without any regard for their feelings, because their brain has just been tortured that much. Now, shoot them all you want, but don't shoot the knowledge. Don't burn the knowledge. Don't turn away from the knowledge, because when you kill something or someone, however vicious, you don't stop the violence unless you get the knowledge out of it. You see, that's the only way to stop it. Because how many little boys are going to be tortured like that in their lives by their mothers or women who are not going to go out and rape anyone? They're just going to be raped their whole lives. Right? Do you think they deserve that? Every one of us deserves every opportunity to build the hull of our ship that we managed to make it through Planned Parenthood in order to bring into the world. Like this beautiful night is bringing the day into the world, a birth. And to continue building your hull, and no one can snuff you out. You get to build your hull and prepare for a life of greater happiness than that which you may have known before, if that's even possible, or adjust your mind accordingly. Because there's nothing more torturous than being a child to a dysfunctional family and knowing that you'll never return to a happiness that was barely real to begin with. Because how could any child logically be all that happy in a family where all kinds of abuse are inevitable? And your parents have already been subjected to torture and sexual assault throughout their lives. What kind of happiness is any family going to have? And so what would you say to the man who sexually assaulted your mother and did all that to your family and to you? Are they like God? Okay, is that why he wears a beard? He thinks he's Yahweh? He thinks he's a patriarch? He certainly plays that role in the family. The elder brother, he's really enjoyed playing that role. Someone's dog will probably start eating my crop today. That's why I decided not to use the Bible to wipe my ass. Actually, it wasn't that close. It was in like the grass and stuff like that. It was a good one though. Good size. It's amazing. Maybe that's why I needed to go for a walk. Well, that was part of it. Yeah. Yeah, I think I really pissed off that man yesterday. He's stalking me. For all I know, still stalking me. Threatened me yesterday. So, that someone uses fear and intimidation. I'm attempting to use fear and intimidation. Right? I could take my camera and say, he's sitting there, he's waiting for me, he's glaring at me. Right? This is predatory behavior. It's predatory. So now I know that his family is a family of predators. Right? He's let me know that. I said, I know you're powerful. You're a dangerous man. I'm very, very scared of you. I really respect that. You can take that for what you want. You can be that awful person. Why don't you walk around here and be that person now that I will always know you to be? Yeah. Now he has to face himself. You know, the demon of his mind isn't there for him, because when you use aggression and you can't support it with good judgment, how are you anything more than a predator? Right. It's amazing how my mom just never seemed to consent. What do you think about that, eh? You can actually justify that. Your threats, eh? Yeah, I don't want to be that fucking cunt, eh? Yeah. Good luck, man. People that are threatening, people that are predatory, how can they help themselves? Well, so I ran into these people like 3 days ago now, and the family was stalking me until yesterday. And I've been having uncomfortable bowel movements for 3 days. And I was sexually assaulted another couple times the day before that. So, here we go. So you get some idea of the kind of environment I'm in. The kind of person you're listening to isn't someone who needs to be preyed upon. Right? If you just listen to me, man, we're going to have to go through this right now. Right? Don't get these things. There's a good side. Oh, Rebecca. What color am I? No. Listen to me. Don't ever call. You have no business. It's stupid. It's over the eyes. There's nothing to do. People who can't even take care of a dog, right? How can you take care of your children? Whoa. Heading home. Yeah. 3 children, 3 little children. I think, I'm not sure, I didn't look at them, but little girls, I think. I'm not surprised. Yin poison family. They have to have girls. A lot of families have to have girls just to process all the yin poisoning. What was interesting is that I had a family member who had 3 boys, which you don't see very much. And no girls, 3 boys. And grew to be quite big and strong, drank a lot of milk. Yeah, really big guys. You know, good shape, hardworking. Like, where did that come from? In my family line. You know? Really good looking, all those kinds of things. Didn't seem to have like serious mental problems, but alcohol related issues. I didn't know them very well, but definitely alcohol related issues. My one cousin had several stacks of porn in his bedroom. We'd stay there one day when the door was open and you go look at his porn magazines. I mean, they were fairly like soft porny magazines, but it's like there were hundreds of them. You know? The guy, the meth addict, I guess, wanted an ice cream bar. He didn't want the sandwich. He just want sugar, I guess. So that's been relaxing. I'm tired now. And the key thing about this family is they just don't know how to deal with their aggression. And it comes out passively. It's still breaking? No, it hasn't stopped. projecting aggression, fear. Don't ever bother me again. Fucking idiots. So I've looked at violence in terms of what it feels like in the body, how it wraps around the heart. These are when people are at a distance. These are moderate, yet very acutely mortifying experiences of female hatred, which women, basically we can assume, don't even think exists, okay? Women apparently don't hate anyone, okay? This is that's why it becomes a male-oriented subject, because it's about something that women project out into the world that they don't think they're capable of projecting. Certainly we all can, but apparently women aren't we. They don't consider themselves equal to men in that way. They don't have the ability to hate anyone, apparently, and certainly not men. So no women hate men. We're pretty sure they don't hate them. They're just trying to love them and improve their behavior so that they don't rape them. Would that be? Okay. So, but how can you really deal with anything without hate? You can tell me you can approach problems in this world that are of a priority nature in human survival, and you don't feel any hatred. I find that odd, right? Not for anything or anyone. It tells me that you haven't done any real moral thinking in your life. People that can hate can feel. It's always the psychopath's prerogative to say, I'm not angry, I'm not afraid, I don't hate anyone. And everything's nothing to them until they lose something that they want. And then the rage comes out. Right? I don't care. That's nothing. Talk to someone else. Whatever. Shut up. Go away. Right? It's nothing to people until it's something to them. Right? And these people we're talking about, these are people who are taking things away from other people. Right? Matt Damon, though he's an actor, right, is part of the people who want to commandeer your ship, your physical and mythopoetic existence, and that of the sanctity of the flesh and blood of your mother, your father, you, and your brothers and sisters. It's just what his subculture or superculture does. It's what they do every day, and they're good at it, right? That you can't imagine that such a being could ever be a part of something that even accidentally is immensely horrible to you or your people. Or that you would have to stretch your mind to think that human beings just have to be ruled by some kind of good, evil kind of people, because we just have so much good and evil inside of us. Or rather, you yourself have entered into so much portrayal and role-playing in your tortured families that the idea of criticizing an actor would be against your own survival. And it's more important to prop up their eminent worth and value and even aesthetic moral superiority throughout all of their great roles that they've played in entertaining you and your people. So you could learn more about the human race. Because Robin Williams would make a really good psychiatrist, right? And what you saw in that film was real psychiatry. All Matt Damon's character can recall about any parental care in his life was a father coming up the stairs with a belt and a pipe and asking him to choose which one. And he would choose the pipe because fuck him. And that's a line from the movie. Fuck him. Right? I mean, this is pretty crazy psychiatry, pretty crazy reasoning. Right? But you could see it at an emotional level, hey? Right? Because he hates his predator. He hates his father or stepfather. Right? And how could you really understand what a victim is if you don't hate the predator? Even if you love the predator. Right? To not be able to hate is not even being able to acknowledge anything important about what's distributing violence in your or any life in the world. So when women say they don't hate anyone, it's like they're saying that they're moral vacuums, right? Because when you're portraying something, you can never really portray it accurately. You're just an actor. You're just pretending to be moral, right? And that's fine to say, hey, you recycle, so you're like a ecologically ethical person. But what does that have to do with the ecology? It's nothing. Most things aren't even recycled to begin with. It's a belief system. Right? We've got lots more work to do before we reduce the amount of garbage we put into the earth. There's many, many other higher priorities than that. Right? To draw ourselves into another collectivist nightmare fantasy. Again, groups of people can hide all kinds of inhibitions. Right? Why don't you go and find out among human industry the worst polluters in the world? Make a list of 10,000, okay? And then see if you can stop any of them from doing what they're doing. And then go fuck off. Go get jet airplanes not to take off anymore because they express more exhaust in one takeoff than all the cars in America in a year. You know what I mean? See how much fuel they're burning? Motherfucker. And greenhouse gases and global warming is a crock of shit. Right? Venus, by their own system, which I don't believe anyway, but by their own system, by their own minds, Venus is full of greenhouse gases, right? 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 And carbon dioxide is by far the majority greenhouse gas, and the number one producer scientifically is absolutely the ocean. Okay? So there's really nothing that even comes close. Not all the volcanoes in the world. You understand? You can't stop the fucking ocean, man. Right? And Venus is a distance from the sun that's in a ratio to the distance of the Earth from the sun. And the mean temperature bears out just based on the distance. It has nothing to do with the so-called gases in the atmosphere. Okay? Which if they're going to trap in the atmosphere at all, they're going to have to trap in heat at some point. You know what I mean? So it's like they're trying to convince you that the entire Earth is warmer than it should be. What is exactly the temperature it should be? So what the fuck is the point? Right? Why don't we focus on air quality? Right? What about the fucking gases we're breathing every day? What about the fact that people don't get any fresh air a lot of times? What about the importance of using the air of your breath and the sounds you make and breathing fresh air? So you don't, lose your mind. Jackie Funk is a mythologically evil woman. Hello. Buddy? Hey. Does he need to go out? Oh. Hello. What time does the vet open?
Pardon?
What time does the vet open?
8:30.
Oh, alright. He just peed again. I guess he will pee again. That's fine. That was a pretty good walk.
Cold outside?
Yes. At times, I think the sort of the air can have quite a chill in it, but if you're near the water. The coldest place I went was near the river. Oh.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, yes. Peanut butter toast. Thank you.